Hi everybody, it's Kiera here, and today, as you guys know, I am debt-free. I paid off $33,178.73 in a matter of 13 months. And that was a car loan and several student loans that I had after I graduated from UNC Charlotte, go Niners, last May. Not last May, last May, May 2018. And after I posted my post on Instagram today on the fact that I was debt-free, I got so much love, so much support, you guys. Thank you so much. It is so overwhelming. I got so many positive comments, so many words of encouragement, so many DMs with questions about finances and how I did what I did and why I did what I did. And a couple people told me I should make a YouTube channel. I'm still debating. I just might. I have so much to say, especially about money. And everything that I know is things that I researched and things that I had to teach myself. In my family, money wasn't something that was discussed at all. And after I graduated college in May 2018, and I got my first big girl job, and I started to having to make payments on my bills, I really had to figure out what I wanted to do with my money and how I was going to do it. So you guys have been asking, so I'm going to give you guys 4 tips on how to get your money right. So let's start it off with tip number 1. So tip number 1 is to know how much debt you have. And that sounds really obvious. Like, who doesn't know how much debt they have? And you would honestly be surprised how many people do not know how much money they owe other people. I've created several budgets. I create budgets, and I also create debt-free charts, so like visuals of your debt. And I've done it for several people, family, friends, coworkers, all that great stuff. And I recently did a budget for someone, and they knew how much they paid monthly for something, like their minimum payment, but they had no idea what the balance was. And that's an issue. You should know how much your balance is on every single thing that you owe money towards. When I graduated from college last year, what I did was I created an account with Credit Karma. And on Credit Karma, you can see all the debts that you have. It gives you an educational credit score, and I'm going to have to create a completely different video about credit score because I can definitely go into that. But yeah, it showed me how much money I owed to other people. And when I saw that total was $33,000, I was like, not me, not Kiera Elizabeth. There's no way I owe $33,000. But I definitely did. I definitely did. And it's really hard, but you just have to face the music. So the first thing that I recommend is knowing how much debt you have. Ignorance is not bliss when it comes to your finances. You have got to know how much money you owe. So if you don't know how much money you owe, just get an account with Credit Karma, get an account with, some other, I'm sure there's several other websites that do it, like NerdWallet or something else like that. Get an account with them and see how much money you owe other people. It's scary, but you gotta know, girl. You gotta know. My second tip is to stop using credit. Stop. If you want to get out of debt, you have got to stop using credit. You cannot dig yourself out of a hole from the bottom. It does not work that way. If you want to get out of debt, you have to stop using your credit cards. You have to think twice before you buy that $25,000, $30,000 vehicle that you know you cannot afford. Think twice before financing that mattress. Think twice before getting that iPhone 11. Think twice. Think twice. You have got to stop using credit. You have got to stop using other people's money if you want to get yourself out of debt. And something that I thought was really interesting, and it's that African American households by the year 2025 are projected to have a 0 to negative net worth. And for those who don't know what net worth is financial people will call it, assets minus liabilities, but simply it's just what you own minus what you owe. So for example, if I own a piece of land that's worth $30,000, but I have $45,000 in student loan debt, that means I have a negative $15,000 net worth. Now, a lot of things contribute to your net worth, whether it's your home or equity in your home, or if you have a car, or if you have student loan debt, or if you have credit cards, or just anything that you own can contribute to your net worth. And then also the things that you owe also contribute to your net worth, but in a negative manner. So by the year 2025, African Americans are expected to have 0 to negative net worth. And the only way you can have a 0 or negative net worth is by owing other people money. The only way your family can be worth nothing or less than nothing is if they owe people more than they have in their own home. I owe you more money than I have to my name. That is how you have a 0 or negative net worth. And it's so disgusting that is what's projected from my community and from my culture. But that just goes to show the importance of financial literacy, guys. If you want to get out of debt, stop using credit. And then another good thing about that, another thing that I just thought about was, if you use your credit cards a lot and you know that you're weak in that area, you know that, I just can't stop using them. Most people, like over 70% of people, do not pay off their full balance of their credit card within a month. People say, oh, I'll get a credit card and I'll just, just put something on it and then I'll just pay it off within a month, right? No. Over 70% of people do not pay off the full balance of their credit card in that month. And if you know that you're one of those people and you're weak in that area, it's very strong that you're able to identify that. If you're like, hey, Kiera, I know I have a credit card and I know that if I have it, then it's going to get used, then you're just gonna have to cut that bad boy up. Cut it up. You have to cut that card up. That card has got to go. It's got to go. If you're weak in that area, you have got to eliminate the threat to your wealth. And for you, if that's using your credit cards, then you have to be big enough, you have to be strong enough to identify that that is your weakness, and you have got to eliminate that weakness. And that is tip 2. So if you guys are still with me on this video, we are on tip number 3, and that is create a budget. Create a budget. So many people say that they have a budget. If you have a budget in your mind, but you don't have it on paper, you don't got a budget. Write your budget down on paper. How much money that you are going to allocate towards certain expenses for that pay period. So what I do, I personally do bi-weekly budgets. So every time I get paid, I have a budget for those 2 weeks. Some people prefer monthly budgets, and that's fine too. Some people get paid weekly, so they prefer a weekly budget. Do what works best for you. But I like bi-weekly budgets. 1, because that's when I get paid. And 2, I like looking at my finances often. And every 2 weeks is a good amount of times to look at my finances for me. So have a budget. So what I do is I do a zero-based budget. That means every single dollar that I get on payday has an assignment. It has a name. It's going somewhere. After I have my budget line items created, every single dollar from my paycheck should be gone. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I blow my paycheck or that I spend all of my paycheck. Whether you have a line item in your budget for saving, whether you have a line item in your budget to fund an IRA, whatever your budget line items are, after you have your paycheck, all the money should be gone, even if it's for savings or even if it's for a miscellaneous category. Like sometimes when just random things just pop up, I just pull it from my miscellaneous category. Just random, not an emergency. And later we'll go on the different, we'll talk about the difference between miscellaneous and an emergency. But I even have a miscellaneous part in my budget. And like I said, every single dollar has a name. So when it comes to budgeting, whenever I counsel someone on budgeting, the first thing I tell them is when they get paid is to just spend their money. Yeah, just spend your money. Spend it like normal. Write down every single thing that you spend your money on and just don't hold back. Do what you normally do. And then after the 2 weeks, what we do is we go through your statements, we look at the notes that you've taken on everything you spent money on, and we add it up. And this is when we say, oh my gosh, this is when a lot of people have their aha moments, right? This is when they're like, oh my goodness, I spent $200 going out to eat these past 2 weeks. Yikes. And when you really get that realization on how you're spending your money and what you're spending your money on, it helps me identify and you what areas you can cut back on. And if anyone needs help with their budget, totally feel free to let me know. I've created several budgets for a lot of different people, and it's an area that I'm really strong in. However, when it comes to your budget, I will have to be all up in your business. Now, I promise I won't tell anybody, but I will have to know how much money you make. I will need to know your expenses, no matter what they are and how much they are. So if you do not feel comfortable with telling me that information, then I am not the person to make your budget. But if you are comfortable with giving me that information and you would like my help, feel free to DM me and we can work something out. So, another point, cash envelopes. So something that I use, which is a little old school, is the cash envelope system. So what I did was whenever I got a paycheck, I would cash it out, all the paycheck in cash. And I would have different envelopes like this. This one's kind of ugly, but there are cuter ones that you can buy off Amazon or from Walmart that have labels on it. And in each envelope, I put how much money is allocated to that section in that envelope. So in my gas envelope, I have $60. In my miscellaneous envelope, I have $40, and so on and so forth. And I carry it in my purse. So whenever I go out to eat, I go into my out to eat envelope, I pull the money out of my out to eat envelope, and I spend it on going out to eat, which is what that envelope is for. And if one time I go in there and I notice there's no money in there, then guess what? I'm not going out to eat. I'm not going to borrow money from my gas envelope, put it in my out to eat envelope, and use that. No. No, no, no. And then also a very interesting thing about using cash, and no one really uses cash anymore, but psychologically, it's been proven that when you see your money leave you, when you spend the physical money, the cash, the dollar bills, the change, the cents, when you do that, in your brain, it like releases like the pain sensors, and it's actually been proven that you spend less money, which is I think super interesting. But yeah, the cash envelope system is something I use. It might not work for everyone. Some people like to separate their money, but if you have it in a checking account, it's hard to separate your money when it's all together. So when you have the cash envelopes, you're really compartmentalizing your money rather than having it in a checking account and remembering, oh, wait, did I spend $20 out to eat, or did I do this, or did I do that? Whereas if you have it in the envelopes, it's a physical manifestation of that. So that goes on to your accounts. So I saw something online that I thought was super interesting, and it's called the high five method. It means you have 5 accounts. And it's something that I've been doing before I heard of the high five method, but now that I know there's a name for it, I'm going to start calling it that. And the high five method, and it's founded by this amazing Black woman who is very proficient in millennial money. And what the high five method is saying is have 5 accounts. The first account is what I call your daily checking. So this is what you spend your typical money on. Like, let's say you want to go to the mall and buy a shirt. It will come out of your checking account. The second thing is your bills account. When you get paid, or at least when I get paid, the first thing I do is I move all the money over that I have for bills into my billing account. And then I do not look at it anymore. I do not think about it anymore, nothing. First thing I do is move it over to that bill account. And I have my bills on auto pay. If you are very forgetful, have your bills on auto pay. And then sometimes, I know like for me with my phone bill, because I have it on auto pay, I actually get a discount. That's because the company knows they're gonna get your money. And so that's why they try to incentivize you for that. But have a separate account for your bills. You should not be mixing your bills with your daily expenses. It doesn't work. Don't do it. And then also, when it comes to bills, I don't know about y'all, but my bills take several days to come out of my account. If you keep that in with your regular daily usage checking account, that just gets so confusing and so unnecessary. So moving forward to the third account, we covered the first one, which is your daily checking account. The second one is your auto bill account. Those are 2 checking accounts, and the other 3 are savings. So the third one is an emergency fund. So I know I touched on this a little bit earlier when I said I had a miscellaneous line item in my budget for some unexpected things. But just know that miscellaneous is not an emergency. An emergency fund is a true emergency. Christmas is not an emergency. It's the same day every year. The fact that you miscalculated something in your budget is not an emergency. That's a mistake on your part. The sale, the Fashion Nova sale, that is not an emergency. The fact that all the friends are going to Vegas in a couple weeks and you want to go too, boo-boo, that is not an emergency. A couple examples of an emergency is an unexpected medical expense. Like let's say you break your leg and now you got, a hospital bill. That's an emergency. Your car battery blew out. That is an emergency. Those are examples of emergencies. Y'all know what an emergency is and what one isn't. You have to have a very high level of discernment. The things that bring you pleasure from purchasing it, more than likely is not an emergency. Emergency are things that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like this just happened to me. I know that a couple weeks ago I was leaving work, and as I tried to leave the parking deck, my car would not start. My car just wouldn't start. And I called my coworker. I was like, please give my car a jump. Like, I don't know what's going on. And it turns out my battery was dead. And with everything that I had to pay for it, it was around $300. But it was something I didn't have to worry about because I had an emergency fund. I have money that is dedicated for emergencies and emergencies only. So for what most people would be like, oh my gosh, $300, that's an unexpected expense. And for some people, they would put that on a credit card because they don't have that cash on hand. That was an example of something that was a very seamless experience for me, simply because I have the money to cover that. And in another video, I'll go into a little bit deeper about the importance of emergency funds and how much money you should have in your emergency fund. But have an emergency fund. So like I said, we have the daily checking, the auto pay, the emergency fund. The fourth one is your short-term goals. So I love to travel. I haven't done it that much since I've been on this debt-free journey, but I absolutely love it. And I know that very, 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 very soon, I'm going to reward myself with an amazing trip, whether it's in the country or out of the country. I haven't quite decided yet. But that is a short-term goal, or some people also like to refer to it as a sinking fund, which is an expense that you know is coming so that you save the money beforehand in an account. So that's a short-term goal. And then the fifth and final account is your long-term goal. So for me, I would love to be a homeowner. It's not something that I'm really pressed to do right away. But now that I am debt-free, home ownership is something that I'm starting to look more seriously into, even not right away, but it will be happening within probably 2.5 to 3 years. And that is where I would put money for my long-term goals. It is a goal of mine to have a sizable down payment for my home. For those who aren't really familiar with real estate, if you don't put down a certain percentage on your home, I think it's about 20% of what the home is worth. So for example, if you want to buy a $100,000 home, you'd put down a 20% down payment, which is $20,000. And then when you put that down, that avoids what's called as PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. And basically what this is extra money that you have to pay the bank because you didn't put down a down payment on your home. It just kind of covers the bank's butt just in case you don't pay for your home, or you go into default on your home. But it's just money you don't want to spend, right? It just adds up. And it's just something I don't want to have to deal with. And then also, cash is king. So the fact that you have cash, the fact that you have a sizable down payment on your home can help you in a lot. Sorry, my battery's about to die. Can help you in a lot of different ways. You would be surprised how many people will take less money. I'm not even talking about houses anymore, but in general, people will take less money if you give them cash on the spot rather than if you offer them payments. You would be very surprised. So that's the high five method. Again, that is your daily checkings, your auto pay, your emergency fund, your short-term goals, and your long-term goals. And that is my tip number 3. Thank y'all for sticking around in this video for so long. And this is my 4th and final tip. And this is to have a vision. And the Bible says, in Proverbs, it says, where there is no vision, the people will perish. You have got to have a vision on what you want in your life. It's so critical. And if you have a vision, write it down. It's proven that when you actually write down your goals, they're 5 times more likely to occur. Write your goals down. Hold yourself accountable. Have a vision. So my question for y'all is, what is y'all's vision? What is your vision for your finances? What is your vision for your career? What is your vision for your relationships, whether it's romantic or your family or your friendships? What is your vision? And you really just have to take a step back and see where you are and where you want to be. And you can know where you want to be and have that vision. But if you don't know what steps you're going to take to get there, then your vision isn't as clear as you thought. Everyone wants to be a millionaire. Everyone wants to get married. Everyone wants to do this and do that and have the white picket fence. But if nobody knows how to get there, if no one has a plan on how to get there, you will never get there. You can't just get in the car and just drive and expect to go somewhere, but you don't have the proper map. You don't have the proper route. You got to know how to get there. So that's a really, 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 really big chunk of it is understanding where you want to be. And last year, I just wasn't where I wanted to be when it comes to my finances. I mean, I wasn't completely mishandling and just blowing my money, but it wasn't where I wanted to truly be. And on this day, September 20th, I knew on this day that I was going to be debt free. I knew that for like 12 months. I wrote down each and every paycheck date, and I wrote down how much money I would dedicate towards my debt in each paycheck. And I stuck to it. And I kept my vision. And this also helped. Like I told y'all, I make debt-free charts. So I made one for myself. And this helped keep me accountable. Every time I got paid, I would come in here and I would do one little tick. I would just keep ticking it off, ticking it off, ticking it off. It would be a huge thing for me to mark off every single time I put money on my debt. And I had a vision, and I wrote it down in my journal, and I wrote it down on this poster, and I posted it on my wall. And every time I would wake up in the morning, I would see it, and I would be reminded of where I am, and I would be reminded and where I wanted to be. So my question for y'all is, where do y'all want to be? You have to know it. You have to know. And for some people, debt freedom isn't for you. Some people want to pay their student loans, their minimum payments on their student loans, and carry it around for the rest of their life. That's on them. Some people want a car payment They think it's very, very normal, and it is. The average car payment's a little bit over $500. That's the average. Most people have a car payment. It's very, very normal. It's very much so what society tells us to do. And personal finance is just that. It's personal. So what works for me may not be what works for you, but the sense of drowning I felt, the sense of insecurity I felt when it came to my finances, and I knew it was because of the debt that I owed, I knew I had to make a change. And I don't expect everyone to do exactly what I did. In this video, I didn't really go too deeply into the methodologies and practices that I did to get out of debt. And maybe I'll make another video on that. But you can still be financially free. You don't have to do every single thing that I do to get to the same place where I'm at. When you put in an address in your GPS, right, it pulls up like 3 different ways on how to get to the same place. The route that I take doesn't have to be the route that you take. It doesn't. It's good to see me as a model and listen to my perspectives and maybe have me counsel you or give you some advice, but what I say is not gospel. What works for you is what works for you. And when it comes to personal finance, you have to explore the avenues and make some mistakes and just understand what works for you. So thank you guys for sticking along with me in this super long video. That was my 4 tips on how to get your money right. And DM me if you have any questions, any comments, any words of encouragement. And also let me know if you think that I should make a YouTube channel. There's a lot of stuff I want to cover, especially when it comes to credit score, getting more detailed into budgets. I want to tell you guys a little bit more about the personal route I took and the sacrifices I made and all that great stuff. But I don't want to make this video too long. So let me know what you guys think and give me some feedback. And thanks for sticking around with me. Bye, y'all.